Mr. Lyons, will you resign from ICE?
No, sir, I won't.
Why not?
Because, sir, that child that you're showing right there, the men and women of ICE took care of him when his father abandoned him and ran from law enforcement. That's 14% that are listed as violent criminal felonies. Sir, if you look at what ICE has done, more than 60% of every individual that is in ICE custody has a pending or a conviction on a criminal charge.
Greg Vino, who styled himself in Nazi attire and takes joy in deploying tear gas at Americans.
Reclaiming my time, Mr. Chairman.
It's not the men and women of ICE that are out there doing it every day. So to say that the men and women of ICE that can stop us—
Mr. Chairman, I'm reclaiming my time. I would like my time.
We are facing the deadliest operating environment in our agency's history. But let me send a message to anyone who thinks they can intimidate us. You will fail.
That was Acting ICE Director Todd Lyons. He joined CBP Commissioner Rodney Scott testifying before House Homeland Security today as Senate Republicans are working with President Trump's aide, Stephen Miller, to stop Democrats' proposed reforms and restrictions on ICE. Instead, they're pushing new GOP legislation to do things like penalize state and local officials who don't cooperate with ICE and make it a felony to cross illegally. It's just a misdemeanor now. A shutdown of DHS could begin this Friday. Look who's back with us, Florida Congressman and gubernatorial candidate Byron Donalds. Congressman, it's so good to see you. So you heard that hearing today. What happens to this DHS funding fight? Will Democrats get restrictions on ICE? Politico reports Senate Democrats, they won't get judicial search warrants or stop ICE from wearing masks. But the far left wants to defund and abolish ICE. What's going to happen?
No, we're going to continue to fund ICE and the rest of Homeland Security. And the reason is very clear. The American people still support deporting criminal illegal aliens. That is what they support. That's what they want to see happen. ICE has a responsibility to do that. What the Democrats want is for ICE to return to what it was doing under Joe Biden, which is nothing. And that's not going to happen. We're not going to let that happen. And so the Democrats have to make a decision. Do they just want to try to oppose Trump for the sake of opposing Trump? Or do they want to do what's right on behalf of the American people, which is supporting President Trump, working with him to make sure that the nation remains secured and we do send criminal illegal aliens back to their home country? That is the responsibility of the federal government, and we need to follow through.
You know, Congressman Michael McCall said ICE officers are not trained to effectuate crowd control. That Tom Homan is working with state and local officials they can do the crowd control. Tom Homan is getting state and local officials to honor ICE detainers and get ICE into jails. Should the model that Tom Homan is now setting up in Minneapolis, should that be a model for the nation?
Listen, Tom Homan's been doing this for a very long time under Republican and Democrat administrations, and he's been very successful. The reason why this is all an issue is because of the radical left Democrats, Tim Walz, AOC, Gavin Newsom, you name them. They want these organized protests, which are funded very strongly, mind you. That's what they want, because they want clicks on social media. They want clips going around the world so people have a negative view of what ICE is doing. But I want to remind the American people, Jocelyn Nungari, Rachel Morin, so many other young Americans who were raped and murdered because Joe Biden and the Democrats were not securing this nation. They were not protecting Americans. That's why we're in this position right now. We need to continue to support ICE. And I will agree with my colleague. ICE's role is simple. It's to actually deport illegal aliens out of the country. That's their role. They're not designed to do crowd control. This is why working with local law enforcement under the leadership of responsible governors is critical. That's why people aren't seeing this in Florida. They're not seeing this in Tennessee. They're not seeing it in Texas, because our governors, led by Ron DeSantis, are working with Donald Trump and with ICE so that this is an orderly process.
What do you make of the new series of legal court victories the Trump administration is winning in court to secure the border? Let's go through it. A Los Angeles-based federal judge granted a preliminary injunction to block California from requiring ICE agents to remove their masks. So that's stopped in California. That because it violated the U.S. Constitution's supremacy clause. Then the Fifth Circuit Appeals Court ruled the Trump administration can detain and deport illegal aliens without bond hearings. And then you had the liberal Ninth Circuit Appeals Court in San Francisco granted a stay, letting the administration stop temporary protected status for migrants from Nepal, Honduras, and Nicaragua. It looks like they're starting to win in court. What do you think?
Well, that's because the court realizes that they have to follow the United States Constitution. The Constitution gives full and plenary authority to the federal government when it comes to immigration, naturalizations, and deportations. So these states can sue, but they simply do not have the legal authority. That resides with the President of the United States, and this is the mandate given to Donald Trump by the American people.
Thank you so much, Congressman Byron Donalds. It's great to see you.